Hey everyone, Tom here from TechNexus and welcome to today's video, the fourth in our series of our P&ID week. If you're watching yesterday, you would have seen me lay out some equipment, and obviously this is a little bit different to what we were left with. I've just tidied it up and just decided to work with one tank and two pumps today. And I've put in their equipment tags just underneath each equipment, and then I've also put in the info tags, so one for the tank up the top and two for the pumps down the bottom. Now when I've started this P&ID, this is my intention to sort of leave it at this. Obviously things do change as you add and remove things, so you will need to obviously take that into account, that you may or may need to stretch or move things up and down, or even create a second P&ID to allow you to get the information out that you want. Now with the P&IDs, if your line types are already set, your pipelines, then you could just pick whichever ones you need, but I'm just going to use the out-of-the-box AutoCAD P&ID lines. So we have primary, we have secondary, we have primary line segment new, secondary new, primary line existing, secondary existing, and jacketed. Now for this exercise, I think I'm just going to stick with the primary and the secondary. So when we start, we can always just sort of place, I'm got my idea here for that line, and I've started it at this grid here, and you'll see my grid values. I'm set to 5 for the grid and a snap of 2.5. You have to take into account, so if I'm going to do a second line, so maybe, for whatever reason that we need to do another line close to it. So that's the kind of grid spacing that you might want to look at as well. So don't try and, I'm just a bit pedantic about having it all look nice and neat. So I always try and stick to 5 or a 7 grid. 7 is kind of a good balance because it gives us enough room to put 2.5 or 3.5 mil high text just above the line, and it still gives us a little bit of room so we're not overlapping with text and symbols there as well. Now also you notice I've stopped this short of the edge of the frame of the title block, only because my intention here is to put an off-page connector there. So you can also put in a non-plottable frame there as well. So you might draw a line that comes sort of from here to here to indicate where the edge of the OPCs are going to be. And again, just looking for neatness, they're all going to be in line, and like I said yesterday, coming in from the left to right there. Now if you're not sure where the OPC is going to come in and out of, there's a little trick here you can do with P&ID, is run the line in the opposite direction, and then you can select the line, right click on it, and then edit the line and reverse the flow. So then that way you know where you want to put that OPC. So if I do want to stick an OPC on the end of that there, then again I know that we're all going to be in line and without working any issues. So I've got 2 lines coming in. They'll be dictated maybe by a process engineer, maybe the client. Someone may tell you as a P&ID draftsperson, they're the process lines that are coming in and out, and ultimately it will be your decision or influence on how these lines are all drawn and then subsequently modeled as well. So I'm going to put another secondary line, and I'm going to stick it just down here, and that's going to indicate that it's a drain. So when we do look at the data manager, so data manager lets me have a brief look at the data that's in the P&ID of the project, and then I can go through and interrogate, and I can see I've got 2 primary line segments and 1 secondary going to nowhere from the tank. And with the primary lines, they're going to the tank from nothing in particular just yet. Okay, and as we progress, so now this again is maybe where I'm going to use the reverse flow. So I want to go from the tank to the pump. So I'm just going to go the other way for now. And then I'm going to edit the line and reverse the flow. So now we're going from the tank to pump number 1. Now, when you do a branch line in P&ID, when you select the main header, and you can see down the bottom here, it says continue the group or a new group. So we want to do a new group because in real world terms, this will be one pipe spool going off to that pump, and this will be a second one. Now, what also might happen in real world, when you build this spool, you might use this line number up to the first flange. So you have to think about how it's going to be numbered in the model as well as on the P&ID. But we know traditionally we would just run the branch from the header to the pump, and we know we have some sort of connection here, and it might, like I said, it might stop at the first valve. So in real world terms, there'll be a pipe run going from the tank to the pump, and it's going to stop. So this might be line number 1000. So line number 1000 will actually come down the branch. It'll come off off the header, and then it'll come off the branch, and line number 1000 might stop at the face of this valve here, HA103, in real world terms. But for a P&ID, you don't necessarily have to be that overly pedantic about it. You can do it if you really want to, but again, there's a lot of sort of varying factors in there that might say, we're not going to bother, we're just going to keep them as headers and secondary. And you can see I've done that exact same thing I didn't want to do. So I'm just going to go back, do a line and click on it, and then go N for new, and then come back and run that line over. So now you can see we have the 2 line numbers there. Okay, and then I'm going to run the discharge. So same thing, I'm just going to run it up to a point, stick my off-page connector there, and it looks like it's in a good spot, so I don't need to bother stretching or moving things around. And then again, same thing with the primary line segment going from the pump to the header, and you can see that it's its own separate line. And to show you another example of using maybe a secondary line as well, so we're going to come in here and do a new line group. So this might be representative of a bypass. So with a bypass, you might have a valve in here and then another valve over here. So for whatever reason, they can block this valve. It still lets the process flow through. So for whatever reason, that they can maybe remove this, clean it out, take it out and put another one in its place, or again, use the bypass there as well for that kind of purpose. But ultimately, whoever is administering it will, or should, hopefully have their project set up and have all of the line types already set, so you don't need to bother trying to set things up as an end user. You can see here with the instrument lines, so if I need to place an electrical signal, if I need to place pneumatic, hydraulic, software, capillary, supply lines, leaders, electromagnetic and mechanical lines. We might have a look at them in a second once we place some valves in here. So now, again, someone may nominate the line number for it. So in P&ID terms, that's a tag. So the tag is, let's call it a 4-inch line, and it's carbon steel 150 pound. I'm just going to call this a general sort of process line. So general process and line number 1000. And then we place it in here. Okay. So you can see as well, if I was to draw another line off that at a grid of 5, you can see it leaves me enough room to have the annotation and the text in there, and I don't need to start bunching lines up. So if you have 4 or 5 lines coming in off here, again, just making it look nice and neat, and then that way it makes it look a bit more presentable. So once you've done one, you can go through and do the next one, the drains, and then the others. every project, like I said before, it'll be different. You might have a certain numbering system for primary lines, a certain numbering system for secondary lines maybe, or you just might do 1000, 2000, 3000, or 1000, 1000, and 1002 as you progress. And obviously as P&IDs update and change, the line numbering may change as well. So that's the first P&ID. Now what I'm going to do is do a second one. Actually, what I'll do, I will number this first. So I'll say that's 1000, 1, 2, 3. So this is line number 1004. So 1004. Let's call it an 80. CS150 process. And you can see the off-page connector, the out-of-the-box one already has some information in there as well. So it will inherit some information off the line itself. Again, you may or may not have something similar. You can go through and change it. But to show you how the OPC works, I have 1004 here going off to the second sheet. So before I do that, some of these OPCs do grab the data from the drawing properties. So you may need to populate it before the drawing number before you do anything here as well. So what I'm going to do is a second P&ID. So area 1, P&ID, the capitals, and then 0002. Go OK. All right, so now I have P&ID 001. I have my second one here, and then I can come in and do a line. So I'm just going to place a line arbitrarily, and then do an OPC off the end of it. Now, to connect the OPCs, you click on it, and there's a little plus on the right-hand side that says Connect To. Then you go look for your P&ID in the sheet there, and then select the line, and you can see the view changes to whichever line that is. And I go OK, and you can see here it's called up 01 P&ID 0001, which is obviously that one. Now, for me to get the same thing on the first sheet, I'm just going to go through and I'll show you here. You can see it doesn't have the label there. So I just need to go to the drawing properties, put the drawing label in the drawing number, and then you can see on the first sheet it comes up with that drawing number. Okay, so if you're not getting this value, right click on your P&ID, look at the properties and fill out the drawing number field. And this is the out of the box P&ID. Now if I was to annotate that pipeline tag, you can see I don't have to go through and repopulate anything. It's grabbed it off the first P&ID and then pushed it onto the second one. And I'm just going to change the style here just so it looks a little bit nicer. So you can see we've gone from 1 to 2. Now if I close off drawing number 2, and if I'm working on number 1 and I need to go to number 2, I can pick the OPC, click on the little connector dot at the end, and then go open connector drawing, and it'll take me to that off-page connector, and then I can keep working on that pipe run. Okay, so hopefully that's been informative for you up to this point where we've gone through setup and laying out equipment and some pipe runs and the off-page connectors. What we're going to do tomorrow is put a few valves on, put in some instrumentation, and have a look how it all looks. And then that will hopefully give you enough information and get you going with creating your own P&ID. So thanks for watching. Thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't. Please do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to get daily notifications of all of my videos. And I will see you tomorrow for some valves and instrumentation, and that should cover our P&ID week for now. See you then. Bye.